So let's take a look at the actual vowel points now that will go inside these forms using Pakad, Pekov Dalet, as our paradigm. I have first of all the 3MS form Yif code. Yif code. So just listening to the way I'm pronouncing that, tell me about the Shiva here under root 1. Is it silent or vocal? That is a silent Shiva, absolutely. Okay, and notice that my vowel here is an I-class vowel. Is it long or short? It is short. Okay, Kirik is a short I-class vowel. Kirik Yod is a long one, right? It's historically long, but a Kirik all by itself is a short I-class vowel. And if to the right of my Shiva it's short, then the Shiva is silent, right? Just review. Somebody asked if we could go back to first week of Hebrew. Oh, here we go. Okay, so to the right, silent, short, silent Shiva. So it's Yif. Okay. Now notice. Let's just skip down here. Every single form of the prefix consonants vowel has a Kirik, right? Until we get to the Aleph. Do you remember what I told you about Aleph's preference for vowels? What kind of vowel does an Aleph prefer when we talked about gutturals? Aleph prefers segol, doesn't it? And so all of my vowels are I-class. And is segol an I-class vowel? It is, isn't it? Here, let me go back to our historic vowel chart. I've got all my historically longs along the top, tone longs, tone shorts, and then my compound Shivas. So notice among my I-class I have a segol and a Kirik as a possibility for short I-class. So going back to the paradigm here, they're all I-class, aren't they? In fact, they're all short I-class with a silent Shiva under root 1 in every case. So it's Yif, Tif, 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 F. And on the plural side, Yif, Tif, 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 Nif. Pretty nifty, huh? Okay, so they all begin the same way. Kirik or segol in that Aleph situation, and a silent Shiva. And therefore, every single time I'm going to close the syllable between root 1 and root 2. Root 1 and root 2 will always have a silent Shiva, and silent Shivas are always marking a closed syllable when you see a silent Shiva at the beginning of a word, or in the middle of a word, right? So, now look at the root 2 vowel. When I have no ending, the root 2 vowel is a holum. Holum. What vowel class is that? And from my historic vowel chart, is it A, I, or U class? It's U class. That's right. My vowel here is U class. And I'm going to expect to see that U class vowel in the Cal imperfect. So the Kirik, the I class under the prefix, the nutty prefix, and then the U class vowel with root 2. This is characteristic of the Cal stem. When we get to the Nifal stem, we're going to use the same prefixes and suffixes, but we're going to have different vowels that go under the prefix consonant and different vowels that go with the root 2 vowel. So that's where the changes will happen. Okay? Now, no ending. Root 3 and root 2 are going to close that syllable. So I get Yif code. 2 syllables. Yif code. Say that with me. That's right. Okay, good. So Yif code. Now, that's a he will pakad. So pakad means, let's translate this as a point for now, okay, even though it can be to visit. So he will appoint, Yif code. Now, if I want to say she will appoint, all I have to do is switch the yod out and put a tav there, and all the same vowel points stay because there's no ending. Okay, so all I'm doing is switching prefixes. So it's tif code, Yif code, tif code. Okay, so how will I translate tif code? She will appoint. Okay, now if I want to say you will appoint, I'm using the same vowels, tif code and no ending. Remember, 3FS and 2MS imperfect are identical to each other. So this is going to be you man will appoint, tif code. 2FS. Here's where it gets a little interesting. Okay, let me go ahead and get rid of these. I'm going to add a Kirik Yod to my root 3 letter. So what you want to do is you want to start with your basic pattern yif code and keep those vowel points. So, and when we switch it out to the tav, it would have been tif code, but now I have to add the kirik yod to it. So what would happen here when I add a kirik yod? Well, can a vowel like kirik yod stand all by itself and make its own syllable? No. Every vowel needs what in Hebrew? A lead consonant. And so dalet is going to be that lead consonant. Dalet is going to slide over and take the vowel and create a new life together. And that means that the dalet will no longer close the syllable with the kof. It's going to open the syllable over here. The tone is going to be way at the end. And that means this holum with the kof of root 2 is open and pre-tonic. And Hebrew likes to do something with open pre-tonic syllables. What does Hebrew like to do with those? The verbs. Not the nouns, but verbs. Hebrew verbs reduce open pre-tonic syllables to a vocal Shiva. Okay? That's what we have going on here. So when you see that kirik yod pop in there, the holum of the typical imperfect conjugation vowel, that holum's got to reduce to a vocal Shiva. So it becomes tif, kadi. So I've got two Shivas side by side here. Remember, beginning Hebrew, the first Shiva is always silent. The second Shiva is always vocal. Tif, kadi. Tif, kadi. Tif, kadi. Tif, kadi. So you, woman, will appoint. Okay? Tif, kadi. And then for I will appoint, it's F code. Same silent Shiva, different I-class vowel because Aleph prefers Segol, same holum. Okay? By the way, do you remember what we call the vowel that goes with root 2 in our verbal conjugations? The theme vowel. So the root 2 vowel is called the theme vowel. So I will frequently refer to that as the theme vowel. Okay? So the theme vowel for the Cal imperfect is holum, unless it has to reduce to a vocal Shiva due to a vocalic ending snatching root 3 away and leaving root 2 open and pre-tonic and causing it to reduce to a vocal Shiva. Okay? And that's what happens on the third masculine plural form. It would have been yif kodu, but the shurik takes the dalet away and the holum has to reduce to a vocal Shiva here. So it becomes yif kodu. So yif kodu becomes yif kodu. Yif kodu. So this is they will appoint. They will appoint. Now, the 3 FP for they women will appoint is tif kodna. Notice that I have put an overt accent mark over the kof. Tif kodna. Why is there an accent mark there? The reason the accent mark is visible is because the stress has not moved to the final syllable here, has it? So I have 3 syllables. Tif, kod, na. 3 syllables. I have 3 vowels. And the accent is not on the final one. And if the accent's not on the final one, I have to put an accent mark here. Okay? So it's tif kodna. Now, why didn't the accent go to the back? Well, we learned that vocalic endings like to pull the accent to the back, don't they? Consonantal endings, they do that if they're heavy. This is, we could call it a light consonantal ending because it's just a consonant with 1 vowel. Okay? So it's going to leave the stress on root 2, tif kodna. And I'm going to have a silent Shiva right here. Okay? Now, I told you that anytime you have a Shiva in the middle of the word, and if it's silent, that's telling you that you've got a closed syllable represented. Okay, so this dalet is closing. Tif is also closing, because that's a silent Shiva. So it's tif kod na, not tif koda na. So, this brings us to one little peculiarity where up until this point I've been telling you the same story over and over again. And that is that anytime you have a Hebrew word with a Shiva in the middle of the word, you always look to the right, to the vowel to the right, and if the vowel is long, the Shiva is what? Vocal. So if the vowel is long, the Shiva is vocal. If the vowel is short, the Shiva is silent, okay? So we'll take a look. I have a Shiva in the middle of the word. I look to the right, and I've got a holum to the right. Is holum long or short? Holum is long. So you, following my simplistic rules, should have thought, well, then this must be a vocal Shiva, right? But it is, as a matter of fact, silent. It's silent because it's closing the syllable. So does that mean that this rule I gave you now can just totally be thrown out? No. I now need to tweak the rule, okay? This rule still applies, okay? But it only applies, okay? It only applies when the syllable is unstressed, okay? If I have a stressed syllable, like I have here, then a long vowel could be before the silent Shiva, okay? But if it's an unstressed syllable, that's not gonna be the case, and we're gonna have to follow the normal rule, okay? All right, so this is pronounced tifkodna, tifkodna. Now, that's, again, they will appoint, and the they is female. Second masculine plural is tifkadu. It looks just like yifkadu, except I've switched the yod for tav, okay? And this is you masculine plural. Y'all male will appoint. 2FP is identical to 3FP for y'all female. So tifkodna, y'all women will appoint. And then the first common plural is nifkod. Nifkod. We're back to the holum. We don't have any reduction because there's no vocalic ending to steal away the dalet. Nifkod with no ending. We will appoint. All right? So those are the forms. Now, regarding the form of the cal imperfect, and this is actually going to be true of the other stems that we see also, so that doesn't just apply here. How many of these cal imperfect forms have vocalic endings? How many of them have vocalic endings? Count them up. What do you see? There's only three. There's only three. The Keurig yod is a vowel being added to the root 3 dalet. The shurik is a vowel being added to the root 3 dalet. And the shurik over here is a vowel being added to the root 3 dalet. Now, sometimes my students want to say 5 here because they see the comet's hey at the end of the 3FP and the 2FP ending. But remember, the ending is not comet's hey. The ending is noon comet's hey. Okay? And if I were to transliterate it, it would look like na, like that. Okay? That ending begins with a consonant, not with a vowel. It ends with a vowel, but the ending begins with a consonant. Okay? So that is not a vocalic ending. What's my point here? My point is just to say, okay, we've identified the vocalic endings, and now what you need to know is that sometimes in Hebrew, a special noon magically and mysteriously can appear at the end of the vocalic endings. So you could see not just tifkadi, but tifkadeen. Or not just yifkadu, but yifkadun. Or tifkadun. Okay? That noon is there for who knows what reason. Honestly, we are not entirely certain why that noon shows up. It is not necessarily there to break up a vowel sequence where the word begins with a vowel, after, like I started a word with a vowel following one of these verb endings, because Hebrew can't start with a vowel, right? You can't start a word with a vowel anyway. So it's not like, in Greek you could see a new show up to break up a sequence of vowels at the end of a word. We call that the movable nu, or the new movable. It's not there for that reason, okay? This is referred to as a paragogic noon, all right? And that's all you need to know is that that's what it's called, and that it sometimes will appear. It does not change anything except the spelling. In other words, if you see yifkadun with the extra noon at the end, you're still going to identify that as a cal imperfect third masculine plural, okay? Will you change the translation? No, it's going to be translated the same way. They will appoint. Okay, so don't just be aware that you sometimes might see an extra noon on the pattern with these vocalic endings. All right, that's all I want to say about that. Now, let's take a look at chapter 17.2 on page 132 of Ross. Ross is mentioning in 17.2 that we have a couple of situations where different types of consonants can create some differences in the paradigm. And this will actually, once we take a look at it, be abundantly clear. Okay? Take a look at the first word. We have the verb bahar. Okay, bahar. I think this was one of the words that you learned already, right? Wasn't this in your vocab? Bahar means to choose, right? To choose. And so, what do you see about bahar? This second root letter is what kind of a letter? It's a guttural. It's a guttural. So remember our gutturals. What are the consonants in the guts, gang? We have aleph, ayin, hey, chet, and my guts want to be resh. Okay? And there were three characteristics of gutturals. The first one applies to all five of these. It's the dagesh forte rule, right? No dagesh forte. Number two, no vocal shiva. This applies to the real four. No vocal shiva, what do we put instead? Compound shiva. What about silent shiva? It is okay under a guttural. We can see a silent shiva under a guttural. And then third, these gutturals prefer what? A-class vowels. But we also saw in this chapter, aleph prefers segal. When it can get a segal in any circumstance, it will like to take one. Doesn't mean you have to give it one, but when it can take one, it will. And we saw a good example of that with our imperfect. Aleph was going to get an I-class vowel, Keurig, but it said, hey, a segal is an I-class vowel as well, and I like segal better, so give me a segal. Okay, so what's going to happen here is that the preference for A-class vowels characteristic of gutturals is going to kick in here. So the imperfect of bahar, if I wanted to say he will choose, I would expect it to be something like this. Yiv. What should my vowel be with root 2? What should the theme vowel of the Cal imperfect be? It should be a holum, right? Because that's what we learned for our paradigm. Pakad became yif code. Holum, 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 holum. Okay? So I'm expecting a holum here for root 2, my theme vowel. But gutturals prefer what vowel class? A class. And that is going to affect my form here. So instead of the holum that I have in my short time with the imperfect come to know and love, I'm going to see a pathak show up as my theme vowel, and it's going to be yiv har instead of yiv hor. Okay? Yiv har instead of yiv hor. Okay, so he will choose. And that's basically what's happening here throughout the paradigm is everywhere I wanted a holum, I'm going to get a pathak. I'm going to get an A-class vowel. So yiv har, tivchar, tivchar, and so forth. Okay? Now, if you look at the 2FS form of tivchar, where I want to say you woman will choose, what has to happen? Not only does the yod have to change to a tav here, for you woman will choose, tivchar, but I'm going to add a kirik yod here. What happens to the resh when I add the kirik yod? Well, it's going to slide over and start a new syllable. It's going to leave the chet open and pre-tonic because the kirik yod's going to take the stress. And then what's going to happen to my pathak when it's a verb open and pre-tonic? It's going to reduce to what? A vocal shiva. And can I put a vocal shiva under a guttural? No. We just saw number 2 here. No vocal shivas. What do I need instead? A compound shiva. Which compound shiva will I put? Well, the one that has the A class compound shiva element. So I'm going to get that. Tivchari. Tivchari. So no vocal shiva there. It's got to be a compound shiva of the A class variety. Okay? And that's what you see in your paradigm. So tivkari, tivkari, and evkar, I will choose. Now look at the plural forms of Bahar. I have Yivharu, there's the compound Shiva. But look at the third feminine plural. I have, let me go back and get rid of the Keurig Yod here, and we'll form the third feminine plural. It would be Tivkar, and then I just need to, I've got my right prefix, it's the prefix tav, but I got to add the na ending, don't I? So Tivkar na. For they, women, will choose. Where's my stress going to be? Is the stress going to be on tiv, kar, or na? It's going to be on root 2. Remember, when I have the consonantal ending, I'm not going to stress it. Stress will go on root 2. Since that's not the final syllable, I got to have an accent mark. Can I leave the resh like this with nothing under it? Nope. What do I need to put under it to indicate that this is a closed syllable? And is the Shiva going to be silent or vocal if it's a closed syllable? It's going to be silent, that's right. So I've got 2 silent Shivas here, tiv, har, na. So remember, a little earlier we noted that when we have the stressed syllable with the holum, I looked to the right and I saw the holum. That still doesn't mean that I could make this a vocal Shiva, okay, because I've got a stressed syllable. But now I've got a stressed closed syllable with a short vowel, not a long vowel, okay? And my point is, this Shiva is still going to be silent. So whether the vowel to the right is long or short doesn't matter. If it's stressed and I have the Shiva after it, then it's going to be a silent Shiva, okay? So tiv harna is they, women, will choose. Okay? So that's the guttural in root 2 position problem. Let's talk about the guttural in root 3 position. This is where I have a verb like shema. Shema, which means to do what? To listen or to hear. That's right. And the imperfect, the cal imperfect 3ms should be yish mo, right? I would expect a holum here. But we have learned something about gutturals. The guttural is in root 3 position here, and gutturals like A-class vowels to be under them, but gutturals also like A-class vowels before them if they can get them. And so that's going to affect my vowel pointing. The holum will not stay. It will become pathak. So he will hear is not yishmo, but yishma. Yishma. Okay? Yishma. And so I'm going to see that pathak throughout the paradigm also, unless it has to reduce to a vocal Shiva. So, let me just make a comment about 2 of the forms here on Shema. First of all, when we get to the one with the Keurig Yod, it's tish ma'i. Okay? Now, when I add that Keurig Yod for you, woman, will hear, the aleph slides over, takes it, and the pathak has reduced to a vocal Shiva. Okay? Is it okay for me to have a vocal Shiva before a guttural? Yes. Yes, it is. Okay? So if we look at our guttural characteristics, the issue is having a vocal Shiva under a guttural is not allowed. Okay? But notice that in Tishma'i, the ayin does not have a vocal Shiva under it. The vocal Shiva is under the mem. Okay? So here, my vocal Shiva is perfectly fine. When I had the chet as my root 2, as in Bahar, that's when it needed a vocal Shiva under it, and then I had to switch it to a compound Shiva. Okay? So just be aware that my guttural consonant is in root 3 position, not root 2 position. And so when I have the vocal Shiva under root 2, that's okay. Okay? The other thing I want to look at with you is the form with na, the 3FP, 2FP. It's tish, ma, na. And notice here that the accent is on the mem, tish, ma, na. This Shiva is under a guttural. Is that Shiva under the ayin okay? Yeah. Why is that okay? I thought we couldn't have Shivas under a guttural. That's right. It's silent. The rule is not that a Shiva cannot be under a guttural. It's that a vocal Shiva cannot be under a guttural. But this Shiva is not vocal. It's silent. So it is okay, and it can stay right where it is. All right? So do keep that in mind. Silent Shivas under gutturals are perfectly okay. So this is tishma. No vocal noise. Tishma na. Not tishma na. Okay, so tishma na. Tishma na. The third verb that Ross gives you under 17.2 is the verb matzah, which means to find. Matzah is not just third guttural like Shema is, but it's got an aleph as the third root guttural. And aleph, you know, is not merely a guttural, but it is a weak guttural that likes to do what? To make things hard for us. Aleph likes to quiesce. Okay? And when does it quiesce? It likes to quiesce when it's trying to close a syllable. It's a lousy closer and just gives up. Okay? And so that's what's going on here. So the imperfect of to find, so he will find in the cow, here's what I would have expected. First things first. I want to do the typical vowel pointing. If this were a normal cal imperfect, it would have been yim so with a holum. But aleph is a guttural. So what does the holum become? It should become what? It should become pathak, right? But then the aleph quiesces and loses its consonantal value, and it ceases to function as a consonant at all. That means it's no longer closing the syllable. Okay? It's as if it's not being pronounced. And when aleph quiesced, frequently the preceding vowel did what to compensate for the loss of the aleph? It quiesced, and then the vowel compensatorily lengthened. Okay? So I have guttural preferring A-class vowel, but the A-class vowel has compensatorily lengthened from a short pathak to a long kametz. And so that's what we have throughout the paradigm. So yim tsa goes from a pathak under the sadi to a kametz. Okay? So that's the issue here. So that's what you're going to see throughout. The only time this gets upset a little bit is when we get to the 2FP and 3FP forms. So let's just talk about that. I would have expected something like Tim Sa Na. Okay? Tim Sa Na. Here, the one change now is that the theme vowel under Tzadi changes from a kametz to a segol. Okay, so I'm going to see a segol aleph here as my pattern instead of the kametz that I've been seeing throughout the paradigm in the cal imperfect. You are going to see more segol alephs as we go on in the Hebrew verbal system. Be aware that you could see that. Now, you may not remember that a segol will show up here, but if I gave you Timsena and asked you to parse it, could you do that? Well, you could. You would say, okay, my three root letters are mem, tzadi, aleph. Okay, the verb is to find. And you bracket out your prefixes and suffixes. You have a tav in front, and you have na in back, and three root letters in the middle. If you know your imperfect prefixes and suffixes, you can tell that that's 3FP or 2FP, right? Even if you don't remember the vowel pointing in the middle, you can still tell who the subject is. And this is, of course, since it's using prefixes, is the cal imperfect conjugation pattern. Okay? So that's still going to be identifiable for you.